Welcome back to the Gridiron Expert. We have finally reached the top 10 of our college football schedule previews, and coming in at number 10 in our Gridiron Expert way too early top 25, we've got the Washington Huskies. Yes, the Washington Huskies we have as a preseason top 10 team. Why? Because this team just went 11-2 in 2022. One of the bigger surprises in all of college football last year. And they did it behind a first-year head coach in Kalen DeBoer. And they did it with the number one passing attack in the country behind quarterback Michael Penix. And guess what? Michael Penix is back for another year in Seattle. This is a dangerous Washington squad, guys. Projected 7 starters back on offense, another projected 7 back on defense. They've got a pretty dang favorable schedule. This is a team that absolutely can contend for a Pac-12 title and maybe could very well contend for a college football playoff spot. So welcome back to the Gridiron Expert, guys. We're so glad that you could join us today. As always, please continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos. Check out everything down in the description below, guys, because here at the Gridiron Expert, football never dies. The college football season, it never ends here at the Gridiron Expert. So if you love the game of football, if you love the game of college football, this is the place for you. Non-stop schedule previews, predictions, draft analysis, your requests. We're taking them, we're producing them. We're here to talk ball with you as a member of our GE Nation. So let's dive into Washington, right? I mean, I for one loved this team last year. 11-2, had a top 10 finish, defeated Texas in the Alamo Bowl. This is a team that could, in theory, only be better in 2023. And they're so much fun to watch. When you take a look at their schedule, it's really, honestly, pretty favorable. So favorable to the point that a Pac-12 title is very much within reach. Because you look at how it starts. First month of September, we'll go month by month here until we get to our key 4-game stretch. Boise State, not going to be easy, but they get to host the Broncos. Boise State was a solid team last year. Andy Avalos did a very good job in year 2, but they get to host them this year. So fun, intriguing matchup there, but I wouldn't be too concerned with that if I'm Washington. Tulsa, not too concerned with that one either if you're Washington. Again, we're not here to predict. We're going to predict later, but right now, many would project Washington to start 2-0. They go on the road to Michigan State. Their first true test of the year, having to go to East Lansing is not going to be easy, but they beat Michigan State 39-28 last year. Michigan State obviously was a major disappointment in 2022 after a breakout season in 2021 under Mel Tucker. So the Spartans certainly have a lot of pieces to figure out from their lackluster sub-500 year. Playing the game on the road won't be easy. Michigan State will be better than they were last year. But on paper right now, Washington is the better team. So that's their first true test. They've got to navigate that. They can't fall victim to that trap in week 3, but I believe many would still project Washington to be favored and to win that game over the Spartans. So an interesting game there to really show what Washington's made of with a few extra key pieces there, but they have the significant advantage in a lot of the key areas. They get into Pac-12 conference play. They take on California. To start, they beat California only by 7 last year. For some reason, Cal and Washington always have some wild games, and the Golden Bears always play Washington close. It's just one of those things. In recent years, that's just how it's been. But the Huskies do get to host California, which is huge for them. And California, obviously, in a really, really weird spot right now. Haven't really found any consistency offensively. I'm not sure if that's going to change now in 2023. They then go on the road to Arizona. They beat the Wildcats by 10. This is a major trap game. Cannot afford to overlook the Wildcats. The offense was clicking last year with Jaden DeLora, the transfer from Washington State. They hung with a lot of key pieces, a lot of key contenders last year. Only fell by, for example, 8 to USC. The offense was really firing on all cylinders. Jed Fish is doing a phenomenal job down in Tucson. You cannot afford to overlook Arizona, especially on the road in the desert. Crazy things happen, and right before your bye week. So Washington does need to be mindful of Arizona because that game to Arizona could be very similar to the Arizona State game last year where many thought Washington was going to run all over the Sun Devils, and Arizona State was actually the one that did all the running over and beat Washington 45-38. So that's kind of a trap game there as well. You get your bye week. Washington hosts Oregon. So a battle between two teams that are legitimate Pac-12 and college football playoff contenders, and Washington hosted. Now remember, Washington last year went on the road to Oregon and pretty much ended Oregon's college football playoff hopes with a 37-34 victory in Eugene. Biggest rivalry, one of the biggest rivalries in the Pac-12. No one was giving Washington a fighting chance to win on the road, and they did. One of the wildest endings, too, of the 2022 season. Now, off a week of rest, Washington gets to host Oregon and Seattle. Going to be a great quarterback battle, right? Michael Penix versus Bo Nix. Oregon out for revenge. Both teams should be highly ranked, probably in the top 15, maybe even in the top 10. Has Pac-12 title implications, playoff implications, everything. This is what rivalries are made of. It's what we want to see. Washington has home field advantage, though, which is huge for them. Huge, huge, huge for them. Another part of the reason the schedule is pretty favorable. They host Arizona State right after that. They lost the Sun Devils last year. They're dealing with a new coach, a lot of key new pieces. In the aftermath of the Herm Edwards debacle, they get to host them and try to get revenge over the Sun Devils. Another key home game there. Then they take on Stanford. They beat Stanford by 18 last year. Yes, it's on the road, but Stanford has a new coach, a lot of key new pieces as well. We won't expect much of the Cardinal this year in theory. So a pretty relatively favorable month of October when you really look at it. The month of October consists of a bye week, one of your biggest games at home, and two teams in Arizona State and Stanford that many people don't have high expectations for in 2023. Favorable month. So you're now 2 months in, and really, you have on the schedule, you have an intriguing matchup at Michigan State. That's big game number 1. Trap game at Arizona, big game number 2. And you host one of your toughest contenders in Oregon. 2 tough road games and one of your bigger tests at home through 2 months. That's not bad. It's not bad at all. The month of November is the key stretch for Washington. We've been doing this for every team, right? We look at a team, we go, here, what's the key stretch for them that will define their season? For us, it's the month of November because it's pretty brutal. USC, Utah, Oregon State, Washington State. All those teams are going to be bowl teams, should be bowl teams. All those teams have the talent to beat Washington in 2023. Starts with USC. They didn't play the Trojans last year, but USC still made the Pac-12 championship game, and they were 1 win away in that game from going to the college football playoff. Caleb Williams returns for USC. It is in LA. This is a big game for Washington because if the Huskies are maybe undefeated at this point with a win over Oregon, they're in the driver's seat of the Pac-12. They're in the driver's seat of making the college football playoff. They don't want to afford a loss to USC and maybe what could be the first of 2 meetings between the Trojans and the Huskies. So this is a big one here. Again, a great quarterback battle. We'll see Bo Nix and Michael Penix in October. Then to start November, we'll get to see Michael Penix and Caleb Williams against each other. You can't beat that. If you love offense and you love aerial attacks, this is the game for you. But they avoided USC last year, which was huge for them. Now they got to go on the road and play them. Then they got to take on Utah. Yeah, the reigning Pac-12 champions that beat USC twice last year. Yeah, Utah. Washington didn't play them last year either. They get to host Utah, which is huge. So you get to take down 2 of the top 3 teams in the conference. You get to host in Oregon and Utah. That's really beneficial for Kalen DeBoer's squad. This is a Utah team that's going to have another great quarterback returning and Cam Rising, another strong defense per usual under Kyle Whittingham. So Utah, no slouch either. And right after the USC game, Washington's either riding the high after beating USC or maybe a little bit hungover after maybe taking their first loss of the year. Utah kind of is a trap game despite the game being in Seattle. Then on the road at Oregon State, they only beat the Beavers 24-21 last year. Oregon State was a 10-win team last year. Stingy defense, and they've now got the transfer quarterback in DJ Uiagalelei. This is a team that is absolutely contending for a Pac-12 championship this year, and people aren't talking nearly enough about them. They got to go on the road to Corvallis. That's not an easy place to play. They nearly beat USC in Corvallis last year, and they did beat Oregon in Corvallis last year in a wild comeback. Trap game if I've ever seen one, especially right there at the end of the year with Washington most likely still being in Pac-12 title contention. They could end in Corvallis on November 18th. And then, of course, the Apple Cup against Washington State. Never doubt a rival. Washington State's offense should be even better in 2023, although Washington did outduel them last year 51-33. But you look at that, guys. Again, one tricky game in the month of September, and I would say the trickier game is actually at Arizona and more so than Michigan State. One big game in the month of October with Oregon. That's huge in terms of everything. And in the month of November, brutal. USC, Utah, Oregon State, 3 games in a row. Washington needs to find a way to either win all 3 or go 2-1 down the stretch. And if they go 2-1, they better probably be undefeated going into the month of November if they want to keep those playoff hopes alive. Maybe Washington doesn't make the college football playoff, but this is still a team that can contend for a Pac-12 championship. There's no doubt about it. This is a team that has the talent to get to a New Year's Six bowl game, no doubt about it. They won 11 games in year 1 under Kalen DeBoer. They returned the quarterback that led them to the number 1 passing offense last year. The Huskies are no joke. The Huskies are going to be a tough out for any team they play this year. That's why they're in the top 10 for our preseason poll. That's why Washington Well, we'll save that for later. We'll save our official prediction for the Huskies for you in a few months. Leave you in suspense, but I think you Husky fans are going to like it. So again, guys, thank you so much for watching us here at the Gridiron Expert on YouTube. Make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, and check out everything down in the description below because, again, here at the Gridiron Expert, football never dies. This season never ends here at the Gridiron Expert. We want you to become a part of our GE Nation. So like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification button so you don't miss out on any of our future content. And once again, guys, as always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on the Gridiron Expert.
Yeah.